Take it away, Mark.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you. Well, welcome everybody to another Lit Balm in this unusual year 2026 thus far. Let's hope that tonight we'll start to turn the corner already, but I think we will. And we're delighted today to hear from our featured poets, Jamey Jones, Janet Hamill, Dennis Nurkse, and Maureen Owen, who will be read by Barbara Henning, and we'll hear something from Barbara Henning as well. But before we move on to the feature, here's a little bit about my co-host, Jeff. Jeffrey Cyphers Wright received his MFA after studying with Allen Ginsberg. He's known as a new romantic poet. He's also a publisher, critic, eco-activist, impresario, filmmaker, puppeteer, and artist. He's the author of 90 books of verse, including Blue Lyre and Party Everywhere. His poems have appeared in many journals, including the Cafe Review, New American Writing, the Brooklyn Rail, Posit, and his recent work also appears in Best American Poetry, New York City Insiders, and contemporary surrealist and magical realist poetry. Jeff's latest work is a book of sonnets and artwork called Doppelgangster from Mad Hat Press. And he recently, he fairly recently won the Sir Vision James Tate Prize. And there's a book out from those guys of Jeff's as well. He also publishes Live Mag. Jeff.
Thank you, Mark. It's good to see you again. Happy New Year, man. And everyone too. Thanks so much for coming out, guys. I just had one announcement, and that is that now my friend here is a little inebriated. Whoa, you talking about me, son? Well, you got something to say, Rufus? Did you forget what you're talking about?
Oh, yeah, no, I just wanted to say I was trying to write a haiku for Cassandra, but I feel sometimes, you just can't write anymore, it's like really a drag, but I feel like I have to just keep trying, to write. But I did want to show you this postcard that I got from Andre and Linnea. It says, no kings, no fascists, no Mondays.
Well, thank you. Go drink some coffee.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, it's always nice to hear from you.
Wait, no Mondays? No proofreading
Yeah.
tip? God damn you.
All right. So I just wrote this little when I was feeling like I just couldn't write anything. So this is called More Than Anything. More than anything. Mild odor of old abattoir blood at Gansevoort and Greenwich. Some things can't surrender. Dead Christmas trees lie scattered about, like steadfast soldiers after a devastating rout. On stately doors hang wreaths. I cobble stories together, walking over cobbled streets. Head held high, eyes on the beat, attuned to black hands, spinning time's retreat. Never much more than a one-man safari, searching the bars and parties for a soul mate's absolute absolution. I've landed now, like a roulette ball in your slot. A good bet. There's no time to explain. Just look at wind. It knows how to die and blow its horn. Again. Ho, ho, ho. And is that sprung rhythm? Anyway, such a wonderful program today. And now I'm going to introduce our delightful co-host, Miss Cassandra Atherton. Cassandra's an award-winning prose poet and an international expert on prose poetry. Her prose poetry is widely anthologized and has been translated into Japanese, Chinese, and Korean. Cassandra has published more than 30 books and is currently writing an illustrated book of prose poetry on the Hiroshima Maidens with funding from the Australia Council and the Victorian government. Cassandra co-wrote prose poetry, an introduction, and co-edited the Anthology of Australian Prose Poetry. And we're so delighted that she has done all that stuff for the great prose poetry medium. She is the prose poet of all time. She's commissioning editor also for Westerly Magazine and professor of writing and literature in Melbourne, Australia. Cassandra, good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you. Happy New Year. Viva la prose poem. You know, I'm always going to be reading a prose poem, but today I've also got a chair that DeWitt's going to be really jealous of because it's kind of like his. So anyway, it's called La Petite Morte, and it's a short prose poem. After his fingers burrowed through the tiny O's of her fishnet stockings, she rolled them down her hips. He parked under a jacaranda tree and placed the windshield protector across the glass, a reflective silver concertina. She climbed between seats from front passenger side to the back. He unwound a window so his feet wouldn't push against the glass as her toes grazed the roof. In the afternoon light, her body was a suffused electric pink. And now I have the pleasure of introducing the person everybody loves here, Mark Vincennes. He is a poet, fiction writer, translator, editor, publisher, designer, multi-genre artist, and musician. He's published many books of poetry, translations, and fiction, including more recently The Pearl Diver of Irunmani, The King of Prussia is Drunk on Stars, Spells for the Wicked, Ironclad, and All the Tricks of Language. And next year, No More Animal Poems is coming out with White Pine Press, also accompanied by a neo-progressive ambient folk, funk, and spoken word album, No More Animal Songs. I love that genre. It's my favorite genre. Mark is also a prolific translator and translates from German, Romanian, Spanish, Icelandic, and French. He's published 12 books of translations, including An Audible Blue, Selected Poems 1963 to 2016 by award-winning Swiss poet and novelist Klaus Mertz. And you all know it won the 2023 Massachusetts Book Prize for Translated Literature. His newest book of translations, In the House Still Light by Klaus Mertz, was just released by White Pine Press. His own work has been translated into many languages, including Japanese, Chinese, Russian, French, Italian, Spanish, Romanian, Greek, German, and Icelandic. He is currently working on a novel entitled The Age of Occasions. Vincennes is editor and publisher of Mad Hat Press and publisher of New American Writing. And here's our favorite bit the first time for this year. He was born in Matilda Hospital on the Peak in Hong Kong, but he now lives on a farm in rural western Massachusetts overlooking Herman Melville's Greylock Mountain, Melville's inspiration for Moby Dick, where there are still more, here we go, bold-faced hornets, abbreviated button slug moths, and steel blue cricket hunters than 10-toed bipedal earthlings. It's got to be great where you live. Mark, have you got something extraordinary for us?
I don't know if it's extraordinary, but it's something.
Look, I think we'll be the judge of that.
All right, so this is called Crypto Fingers. And although it sits in a book of poems called Ironclad, which is based on an archaeological dig and is a fragment of a poem that appears in the strata, it's also very reflective of our current situation. So, Crypto Fingers. Envied by industry titans and their well-heeled magnates and moguls, sages, astronomers, and smiths, it was said those with crypto fingers could peel back layers in a flick or a snap or a whip and could count in multiples of 7.5 to half a dozen or more. In the former days, these folk were said to be enchanted by the iron and her blessed ore. Still others were distrustful and took to wearing dark leathers in protest, claiming the crypto fingers had a devious plan to conquer the known world. Several great leaders and industry titans intervened, promising great abundance to all in the form of further luxuries to soothe sinking souls. In the end, of course, once again, a common sense and a practical self prevailed, and the crypto fingers were left to their many useful devices and necessary contrivances. We all know who those guys are. And so I am delighted to introduce the first of our features today, who is Jamey Jones, and is the author of Morning Coffee from the Other Side, from West Florida Literary Federation, In the Key of Clothespin, from Fell Swoop, Under the Big Span of Small Regards, and most recently the following two chapbooks, Dimensions, Doorstop, Sidewalks, from Nalulian House in 25, and Lightbox Over My Head from Third Floor Apartment Press, also 25. He is the faculty editor of Hurricane Review, the literary journal of Pensacola State College, where he teaches English, literature, and poetry. Welcome, Jamey. You're still unmuted, Jamey.
How about now?
There we go, you're good.
Good. Okay. Well, now that I've said all that, I don't know if I can repeat it. Thank you. It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Jeff. Thank you all for making this happen, and I'm grateful to read with such a stellar lineup of poets. I'm going to start. I hope Maureen is all right. I know I plan on reading this. This is for her. Dream with Maureen Owen. Teach the wine bottle to not be knocked over. Tell it that it has to be its own defense. You're all you've got, wine bottle, says Maureen. Then I add, be patient and stay the course. This is called The Way They Watch Movies. Just beyond the Bardo sidewalk, empty all morning, equals all things April, all things sunrise, all things orange cones across the street, all things perambulation, all things half moon, all things knitting twin dimensions, and all things, whatever you do, don't look at your phone, don't check your email, don't order that book or pay that bill. Listen to the sunlight, scribble April yellow hum. The notebook is made of stars. Dimensions, doorstops, sidewalks. The sticker said I voted, and I did, and I pasted it to the front of my black hoodie. My sticker, my vote, to denote all things good and true. It's all about dimensions, doorstops, and sidewalks in this red state stalemate, bluefish glue gun. I voted my hello mouthpiece. I vetted my right to redeem, to sleep, dream, rattle the walls, tone down all tone-deaf headlines, break all breaking news, glue it back to its original state, clean slate, timely and clear, without fear. The sticker said I voted, and I did. It's pasted right there on my chest. My vote, my sticker, right there. Woody's guitar. In this way we dream, in that way we said the wrong words at the right time, wrong train on the right track. And the parking lot turned into a wave, and the wave waved back. Good luck, it seemed to say, which was an island of sorts, a welcome reprieve from the politics of late, berating the lonely masses, marginalizing the meek, and basically everyone who has a heart for a start. Sometimes the poem becomes a folk song, resembling a bowl of soup, folk soup, political soup, anti-fascist soup, like Woody Guthrie's guitar saying this guitar kills fascists. Free soup for everyone. Sometimes we get all souped up and forget that it's soup, forget who we are. Sometimes the soup hits the fan, and in our fear, we fail to understand, lose ourselves completely until some memory or image pops up like Woody's guitar. And just like that, we're back to ourselves. Home again, jiggity jog, back to the democratic bones of home, like some American tin can song being happily kicked down the road to hope, clarity, and redemption, like blue tip matches, like checkers, like dominoes, like a sermon on the mount, mounting a Dust Bowl bicycle, bound to truth, bound to beauty. Hallelujah. Honest antidotes to this cruel regime, this goon squad coup. A little light in the dark, in this dark time, and together we tread, and the meek shall indeed inherit the earth. And the earth is a ball spinning in space where everything is always free for you and me. This is called Solar Storm, and it's for Soter Teregian. I've stretched Sun Ra month 16 days into May, which makes it more than a month, clearly. But I guess I like to hold that magic as long as I can. No longer the splashdown of my birth month, but still more than a trickle from that stream, soft nudge of those calmer swells, all manifestations of the spaceways, of the solar storms that make the northern lights move south until they eventually are north once more, the whole earth contained in northern lights. And this, my 60th year of circling the sun, 60 times I've been here before, 60 earth spools of cosmic threads align wildly to make me. I picture my parents laughing at this in the most loving way, of course, as proud parent spirits, familial ghost atoms swirling about me with love, ever and always with love, which is not thinking, has little or nothing to do with thinking. They laugh and linger all around like southern northern lights in my genes. I carry these ancestral strands inside. They live, after all, and always in April, spilling into May, where all my questions are really answers, and answers are guides who lead the way. How to be 60 and circle the sun, how to string sunlight on invisible string, how to play marbles on the moon, how to move forward in the poem. Okay. April 11th for Todd. Linking LinkedIn to Lyle Lovett, all bets are off as the sun turns inward, as the stars go silent. Once, when I was a kid, I accidentally cut my wrist on a rusty nail and all hell broke loose. Whose hell, which hell, what hell, I'm not sure, but it bled and bled and bled some more. And I cursed and cursed and cursed some more and exhausted my lexicon of foul language, taking the Lord's name in vain more than once in front of my grandmother and many concerned neighbors who looked as though they'd never heard such sailor talk from me, which they hadn't, or from any child's mouth. And blood, tears, and profanity kept spewing out, and my grandmother somehow stopped the bleeding, managed to get me under control enough to get into the car and to the emergency room, where I got a tetanus shot and 2 stitches, my first stitches, which kind of made it all worth it. And this was when we lived near the pear orchard under the water tower, where me and my friends loved to hang out, which is still there after all these years. But the long gone levity and lightheartedness it made me feel then now feels like something more akin to grace, like those paper clips under the shrine where the flame from Our Lady of Guadalupe flickers and reflects on the rainy day window pane like a dream, lighting the path for a friend moved onward. Let's see. Home. Due to a lack of clarity, the privacy fence shapeshifted into a sundial as the news played out in various ways. There's a sphinx changing colors on the shrine, and the trees out front are shedding their leaves all over the yard as if they got the call too soon. News of the world. Tending to the lottery garden needn't be a drag as long as you've got a raincoat, notebook, and pen. Last night I dreamed someone cut down the giant sweet gum tree in the front yard. It's been there my whole life, and that shit pissed me off in a big, big way. I was shocked, angry, heartbroken, and shudder to think of it now. The news of the world is like that sometimes, arriving through crazy dreams that don't make sense and feel far too real for far too long, lingering like unwanted visitors, testing you in some cruel, cruel way. but it needn't be a drag. It is what it is. You are who you are, and those dice, they roll as they roll, accordingly, and their rolling is good. They are beautiful to watch. Raincoat, notebook, pin. And I'll end with this one, and this is for Jeff. Okay. Yesterday, I said I was a train wreck in human form. Oh no, sorry, my alarm. I'll start over. Okay. Yesterday, I said I was a train wreck in human form, but on the way to work this morning, I thought, yeah, but really, I'm a clear blue sky, perfectly clear blue sky in human form. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
All right, Jamey. Thank you for that tribute. That was the poem that Joel Daly published, right?
Yep.
And that notebook of stars. You had a couple of notebooks in there.
Yeah.
Wonderful to hear.
I'm old school. I'm a notebook guy.
Excellent. Thank you, Jamey Jones.
Thank you.
Right. Now we're going to go to the master of transpoetic matics, Miss Janet Hamill, the author of 10 volumes of poetry and short fiction. Her poetry has been nominated for the Pushcart and the Carlos Williams Prize, and her collection of short fiction, Takes from the Eternal Cafe from Three Rooms Press, was named one of the best books of the year by Publishers Weekly. Her most recent book, A Map of the Heavens, which she alone is like attuned enough to be able to write here. Map of the Heavens, Selected Poems from 1975 to 2017 was published by Spuyten Duyvil. In addition to her writing, Janet is a strong proponent of the spoken word. She released 2 CDs of poetry and music in collaboration with the band Lost Ceilings. It was Flying Nowhere and Genie of the Alphabet. Most recently, Janet completed her first novel, temporarily titled Madame Bogart. All right, let's see what you've got. Janet Hamill, it's a real pleasure to introduce you with our gang here. Oh, Janet, wait, you're muted somehow. Hold on there.
Okay, you got me now? Okay. Well, again, thanks for inviting me, Jeff. And thank you, everyone, for having me. It's great to see you all and be acquainted with all of you. With many, it's the first time I'm getting to know you. And especially enthused about Cassandra and her emphasis on the prose. I love prose. So I'm going to read from the book that I can't get rid of the glare in the glasses. This is you see it? This is my selected poems, which came out conveniently the same month that lockdowns with COVID happened. So I was unable to get out and do much about it, do much reading or at it at all. And it turned out to be a good thing. At least the COVID thing did, because I was able to stop working and finally write my first novel. But I'm not going to read any of that today. I'm going to read poems. So I always like to start off with this one because it relaxes me. And this is just called L'amour extraordinaire. Poe exploded into 1,000 pieces. The abominable atrocities of his mind, scattered and swallowed by vengeful birds. The angel hooked, the falcon hooded, his bones rocking the quiet of small coast towns. In a whirlpool, the rocks of ages split to call stop and reverse the velocity. Chemicals spin in a centrifuge. Released into space, his soul. Bone china, luminescence, smooth white skin of an innocence embalmed and rest in peace. The crows fly out of his skull. Please pardon the glare in the glasses. I don't know how to get rid of it with the lighting and the view. This is a poem from, I'm reading from the selected. This is a poem from a little book that Maureen did, one of her last telephone books called Lost Ceilings. And I wrote it, the whole book, when I first moved up here out of the city where I had lived for 30 years. I moved to the city in 1967 and left in about 1995. And this is a section of Lost Ceilings called Nocturnes, about the city at night, and inspired by Novalis and his nocturne. This one is called White Evening. Now, exquisite quiet lulls the buildings in the weight of snow, falling in front of windows on the avenue. The tender desolation kindles my eyes, frozen correspondence of the stars. Above the snow and the snow below, bowing to kiss the city's hardened breast. Her lurid flesh is white as a supplicating Magdalene. Beneath the street lamp, nothing. Season, the evening, and the drifts, effacing time spent with my monopolist soliloquy. Going home to wine's internal summer burning in the absence of prayerful rite, like a candle in the cavity of an ice sculpture. One of the books I did is a book called Knock, and the next few poems that I'm going to read from the selected are all from Knock, and a part of the book, which is Knock of Mexico. And if we're in the right order. Okay. This one is ancient Mexico, the Mayans in particular, and their obsession with time, which is something I love to obsess about. I like to obsess about the Mayans and their obsession with time. Time, time, time. The burden of it, marking the passage of it. At intervals, and stela was erected and inscribed with the age of the moon. At Chichen Itza, serpents slithered up the steps of the pyramid to lick the blood of the sun, giving life to time until the next equinox at Quetzalcoatl's descent. At intervals, and stela were erected and inscribed with the age of the moon, presiding over period endings. The gods set down heavy sandbeds of time, giving life to time until the next equinox and Quetzalcoatl's descent. Years of bad crops and wars were seen in the open windows of the Venus Observatory. Presiding over period endings, the gods set down heavy sandbags of time. Each day was divine, the divine pair of God in the Mayan highlands of Yucatan. Years of bad crops and wars were seen in the windows of the Venus Observatory. The red orb was a star, a planet, a jaguar's eye, a stone sphere, and a ball court. Each day was divine, a divine pair of gods in the Mayan highlands of Yucatan. Through eternity, relays of bearers carried Venus with straps across their foreheads. The red orb was a star, a planet, a jaguar's eye, a stone spear on the ball court. Time, 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 the burden of it, making the passage of it. This next poem is about a poet called Javier. His name is Javier. No, it's not about him. Yes, it is about him. But, it's inspired by him as well. Javier Villarrubia, whom I had never known until 15 years ago. Mexican poet, was very active in the 30s especially, and influenced by the surrealists. And this is about, well, you'll see, he's talking to Octavio Paz about his, Villarrubia's studio, his Mexico City. The poet of statues and nocturnes, Villarrubia spoke in his studio to Octavio Paz. I have to construct this artificial refuge for myself in order to endure Mexico. A set from one of Cocteau's films, Blood of the Poet or the Testament of Orpheus, keep me company with black drapes and the bleeding eyes of a plastered head. I have to construct this artificial refuge for myself in order to endure Mexico. Oblivion, oblivion, sleepwalking, both asleep and awake, I silently cross the sunken city, keeping me company with black drapes and the bleeding eyes, plastered head. The others, the men and women, I pass on the street, don't appear in my work. Oblivion, oblivion, sleepwalking, both asleep and awake, I silently cross the sunken city, ignoring newsstands, buses, barbershops, and the excavation of ancient ruins. The others, the men and women I pass on the street, don't appear in my work. Touching in darkness, the immaterial rose, the rose of rosy fingernails, clawing the surface. Ignoring newsstands, buses, barbershops, and the excavation of ancient ruins, I was born to be a savage aesthete, not eating cheap, authentic street food. Touching in darkness, the immaterial rose, the rose of rosy fingernails, clawing the surface. The poet of statues and nocturnes, Villarrubia spoke of his studio to Octavio Paz. I read one more from the Mexico section. These are cantunes, by the way, from my book Nurkse. Into how that all came about through a translation. And one of my favorite films is Touch of Evil by Orson Welles, starring Orson Welles, directed by Orson Welles. I might be, stoned for saying this, but I think for me, it's better than Citizen Kane. So this is about Touch of Evil and Orson Welles. West of the knock of Mexico Nurkse, Cancun. Knock of Tijuana. Ay, 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 ay. South of the border, down Mexico way. Orson Welles looked like hell in Touch of Evil, planting evidence as always. Dietrich told him to lay off the hooch and candy bars, wearing chandelier earrings. In the single camera, 3-minute opening sequence, film noir, swan song. Orson Welles looked like hell in Touch of Evil, planting evidence as always. The American bride of a Mexican narcotics enforcer was raped in Tijuana in the single camera 3-minute opening sequence film noir Swan Song, when she whispered Mañana and drew beaded curtains and the stars came out to play. The American bride of a Mexican narcotics officer was raped in Tijuana motel. They held her down and put a needle in her arm as the radio drowned the menace. Then she whispered Mañana and drew the beaded curtain and the stars came out to play. For it was fiesta. The gun had been stolen in Quinlan's soiled topcoat and fedora. They held her down and put a needle in her arm as the radio drowned the menace. Later, the captain's cane was found near an oil field. He died in a wastewater pool, for it was fiesta. The gun had been stolen in Quinlan's soiled topcoat and fedora. Did I get this? Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. South of the border, down Mexico way. Well, Quinlan is the character that Wells plays. And this is one last from Nurkse, and then I'll this is about Knock of Africa. I was headed for Africa and Ethiopia in particular, and then down to Kenya to see the animal. And I was able to do that. So this is from Ethiopia, where of course Rimbaud lived out the rest of the last years of his very short life in Harare. Rimbaud, or the madness of dogs. I remember the beads were cobalt blue, nights of his violent worries, and the azure splinters in his eyes, alleys. A weight good in the hand, the fortune he never amassed from gun. As brave as falcons on the old wall surrounding the city, 4 in a row. The nights of his violent worries, and the azure splinters in his eyes, alleys I searched for him. In the Motown, the Coca-Cola Cafe, built in the Egyptian style, as brave as falcons on the old wall surrounding the city, 4 in a row, guarding the 5 gates of Harar, the 5 gates of Islam still closed at night. I searched for him in the Motown, the Coca-Cola Cafe, built in the Egyptian style. He wore a white skull cap on the porch with his servant and sacks of coffee. Guarding the 5 gates of Harar, the 5 gates of Islam still closed at night, keep packs of hyenas at bay. A man fed them strips of meat on sticks. He wore a white skull cap on the porch with his servant, sacks of coffee. There were 100 camels, a square, emaciated from famine. To keep packs of hyenas at bay, a man fed them strips of meat on a stick. Rimbaud, or the madness of dogs. I remember the beads of cobalt blue. That's that. A couple of them here. It's from a little book, Annabelle Lee was putting together a little collection of these small books with Bernadette May before Bernadette. And only 3 were done, mine being the third. Very honored to be part of that project. So Where I grew up, I grew up in the suburbs of northern New Jersey, which is why I love everything exotic, because it's the homogeneity. My favorite place in town was the woods up the hill, because it was unlike everything else. And I love the woods. I love to be alone in the woods. In a dark wood, I found myself leaving the movies at the Oritani. The chief lived across the street from the Fox in a carpet of twigs. Leaving the movies at the Oritani, that's Hackensack, the Oritani. Every branch as seemingly endless from the Fox and a carpet of twigs, light patches, stones, and leaves. Every branch was seemingly endless in the new fort spanning the stream, light patches with stones and leaves. Some kids were afraid to be alone in the new fort spanning the stream, under beech, birch, oak, and maple skies. Some kids were afraid to be alone. Dark wood, I found myself. About the wood. Almost a total absence of birds. In winter, the woods were forsaken. The Florence Street came to an end. A network of frozen ponds and bare trees. In winter, the woods were forsaken, doing figure eights on antique blades. A network of frozen ponds and bare trees, singing Chattanooga Choo-Choo, doing figure eights on antique blades made before the filming of Sun Valley Serenade, singing Chattanooga Choo-Choo, all by myself, immaculate silence. Made before the filming of Sun Valley Serenade. I was training for the Winter Olympics all by myself in immaculate silence. Total absence of birds. In conclusion, I'm going to read from Maureen and Eleanor Allen's new magazine, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. And her intention was, it's called Jewel Board, which I found really unusual because that's Scandinavian for, the spread that they put out at the holiday time. Anyway, that's appropriate. So this is these are some prose poems, 2 prose poems from volumes number 6. There's Sailing 1 and Sailing 4. I wrote in, I guess 6 sailing prose poems. My grandfather was a sailor, captain for the Holland America line all his life. And one of my great ambitions was always to cross the Atlantic on a freighter ship that I actually got to do. Just amazing. And just the sea and the sky and the desert, anything unpopulated. These are a couple of sailing. Before I was born, I sailed the invisible sea, down an estuary, following a cord extending from my navel. I sailed past the 7 known seas into the Mar Incognito. Suspended in perpetual night was the sea, punctuated with pinpoints of light. I sailed its expanse for 9 months, encountering marvelous sights along the way. The first was a carousel, turning round and round on the boardwalk. The animals on the carousel were horses, members of a family. A white mother horse and a black father horse sat side by side on a gilded throne as their 5 children, in colors ranging from chocolate brown to spotted palomino, pranced up and down before them. Live music floated in the air, and bright flags atop the carousel flapped in the wind. Many people walked up to the carousel, stopped to admire it, but no one hopped on to take a ride. It was understood that the horses weren't to be mounted. They were there to be admired and set an example of familial devotion. Last piece is sailing number 4. Blue and white pinpoints of light, tiny orange globes in red, luminous bands of color streaking all directions. Over, under, before me and behind, the show at sea was as awesome as the sights along the shore. From my deck chair, in a silence broken only by my heartbeat, and lapping of the waves against the sides of my boat, I leaned back and watched the three-dimensional spectacle. Thousands of spirals and layers of dark matter went on to infinity. Curtains of aurora danced, veils of dust shimmered, showers of darting lights lasted for hours and came and went in the blink of an eye, to be replaced by a still stare, mar incognito, scattered with granules of diamonds of navy velvet. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Janet.
Thank you.
And next we hear from Dennis D. Nurkse, whose 12th poetry collection is A Country of Strangers, which is new and selected, published by Knopfin 22. Dennis has taught at Rikers Island and inner city programs, and he's currently on the faculty of Sarah Lawrence College. Also, his work has been featured in Jeff Wright's Live Mag. Welcome, Dennis. Can't hear you. I think you're on mute. Sorry. You're not unmute.
You guys can hear me?
Yep, now good.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Mark. And thank you, audience, for being here. I'm going to read a poem called A Psalm of Exile. Each day my country is a night further away. My nation hates me with a contempt that thrills me. My president shields himself behind a wall of crimes, innocent as a cat with a songbird in its red mouth. The avenues of the capital wheeze of an asthmatic. The drones, lasers, clenched atomic fist, degrees of fever. That hatred so strong, so unknowing, it works miracles. My neighbors walked out in the dark and never came back. The tabby disappeared, and the dog, and the child's goldfish. The clock struck 13. The face came apart like a dandelion. I woke in a soaked bed. My country shone beyond Orion. Try to breathe. The fatherland is a blocked valve in your heart. This is another poem about exile, which is a topic that I think is on our minds. The country of exile. You have a minute to pack. Will you bring the child, the dog, the leash, shoes, a comb, the child's toothbrush? The country of exile will come to you. Surely as dusk sneaks into evening, the crooked streets will walk you. The endless steps will climb you. Enter that tenement as if you pushed the creaky iron door to the mind. The old woman is spooling yarn. Her blue lips pucker with pins. The old man is playing solitaire, flinging down smoke-blackened cards. What did you forget? Your passport, your name, the slip of paper on which you wrote it. I've been writing some poems about childhood. This is a poem about growing up on the Upper West Side. My father came here from Estonia, and this is a poem about being acclimatizing to American culture. This poem is called America. We lived on the wild avenue. Night and day sirens moaned and screeching brakes taunted us. I had to cross by myself to reach the park with its swings, its teeter-totter, its sandbox full of paddles and dog shit. There, Sylvie Wachtel dug relentless with a bent soup spoon, each day a different ribbon in her hair. Red Sunday, purple Monday, Friday a color no one ever saw before. She arranged treasures on the pavement, hollow robin's egg, achingly crushable, buffalo nickel, stiff raven feather. How I longed to touch them. First I had to cross. I shut my eyes and pelted, guessing at the painted lines. But my father saw me from his high window. How could he see me if my eyes were shut? Child, if you run, a car will hit you. Poor father, loneliness had driven him mad. Why would I want the enemy to notice me? Next time I ran faster, knees at my throat. But my father was still watching. He sat me down in his swivel chair. Look into my eyes, he commanded. I could not. Red veins forked like lightning in the whites. At the pupil, I felt sick and looked away. He stroked his chin. He cleared his throat. Child, he said, consider your dignity. The Americans are always watching. If you run, Senator Joseph McCarthy will think we Estonians are cowards. I understood. Next time I crossed, I made myself mince on wobbling knees, staring hot-eyed at hostile windshields. Here a wiper flinched, there Jesus dangled. I chanted without moving my lips. Fuck you, Senator Joseph McCarthy. I arrived at the far curb exhausted. Sylvie was digging up a dead squirrel. I watched, I tapped my foot, I coughed, but she never looked up. The ribbon in her hair gleamed bone white. I retreated to the swings, and there I rose like Jesus to the clouds. If I closed my eyes, I could see the entire city, Harlem, Inwood, Domino Sugar, the dark river, the past, the future, my dad in the brown shirts, my home run at Yankee Stadium, and I sang with what breath was left me, America. These are some very literal childhood poems. My father really told me, don't run across the street. And I thought that advice was crazy. And then he became psychological and told me, Americans will think you're a coward if you run. Another poem called My American History. Another poem that's factually completely accurate. My American history, the bully cited me on Polk. I spotted him. We were fused. A football field behind me at Madison, a half block back on Lincoln. I sensed him in my nostril, my groin. I walked slow, fast, eyes forward. I whirled and made a fist, delighted. The bully whirled too and made a fist. Pussy, he screamed. I almost passed my parents' daffodils at 7 Jefferson, then dodged back, but he wriggled after me through the closing doors. I raced upstairs, his breath in my lungs. My parents were wrestling softly. I dove under the bed. Why, it's Tim, the Grady boy, my mother said. Is this a play date? Yes, ma'am, said the bully. Hide and seek. And like a puppet on a string, he vanished into the future. Come out, my mother whispered. Everyone knows you're there. But it was 70 years ago, and I'm still hiding in an old man's body. That's a poem about bullying and American history. This is a poem about my father, who died when I was 8. This poem is called The Dim Tenements. What, I asked my father, is behind a wall? When you see a lit window through the rain down a dark street, who lives there? When a car swishes past after midnight, sudden and decisive, where is it going? The voices in the alley, laughing and sobbing, what are they sighing and talking about? My father moaned and rolled his eyes while blinking furtively. It was an expression he had perfected during the fall of Poland. He cracked his knuckles, a hollow sound. He explained, behind the wall is another wall. The rain doesn't know itself. The car is fleeing. The voices have no idea what they are saying. When you come to the lit window at the end of life, I will be waiting for you, but the room will be empty. And I'm going to conclude with 2 poems, 2 shortish poems. This is an older poem called A Night in Brooklyn. It's a love poem. A night in Brooklyn. We undid a button, turned out the light, and in that narrow bed, we built the great city, water towers, cisterns, hot asphalt roofs, parks, septic tanks, arterial roads, Canarsie, the intricate channels, the seacoast, underwater mountains, bluffs, islands, the next continent, using only the palms of our hands and the tips of our tongues. Next, we made darkness itself. By then, it was time for daybreak, and we closed our eyes until the sun rose, and we had to take it all to pieces, for there could only be one Brooklyn. And the last poem is for my daughter. It's called Showers. And this is when she was a bossy little girl. Now she's a bossy 42-year-old. Showers. The child tells me, put a brick in the toilet, don't wear leather, don't eat brisket, snapper, or farmed salmon, not tells, orders. Doesn't she know the sluice gates were left open and 1 trillion gallons wasted just for the dare of it? Until the staring eye shares that thrill, confessing, I am just iris and cornea, blind spot where brain meets mind, the place where the image forms itself from a spark, image of the coming storm. But the child waits outside the bathroom with the watch she got for best diorama, muttering, 2 minutes too long. Half measures, I say. She says, action. I say, I'm just one man. She says, you're 7 billion. If you chose, the sea goes back. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Dean Nurkse. That was great. And the book is fabulous. It's deep stuff, Dennis. Really good, man. Um, just wanted to say that sluice gates. Who could work sluice gates into a poem? That was awesome, man. Like the sluice gates of language you over there. So, moving on now. In case you don't all know, but Maureen is ill with COVID and couldn't make it. And Barbara Henning, a great friend who is with us and had gone on a tour with her, not that long ago, a giant tour, is offered to step in now and read some of her poems. And then she's going to read her own piece, which is kind of her relationship from girlfriends with Maureen. So I'm going to read Maureen's, and then I'll come back before Barbara reads hers and read a little bit about, introduce Barbara properly. So Maureen's latest title is Everything Turns on a Delicate Measure from Blaze Vox. Recent publications include Let the Heart Hold Down the Breakage or The Caregiver's Log from Hanging Loose. Poets on the Road, City Point Press, and I guess that's a triple press thing going on. Anyway, I met Maureen when she was doing Telephone. She was legendary, Telephone magazine and Telephone books. She's the author of 13 books of poetry herself. Her title, Erosion's Pull, Coffee House Press, is a finalist for the Colorado Book Award, where she is now, and the Balcones Poetry Prize. Her collection, American Rush, selected poems as finalists for the LA Times Book Prize, and her work, A.E., Amelia Earhart, a recipient of the prestigious Before Columbus American Book Award. She's taught at Naropa University and served as editor of Naropa's online zine, Not Enough Night. Maureen can be found reading her work on the Pen Sound website, and she can be reached at MaureenOwen.com. And Barbara, thank you so much for coming in here.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you for asking me. I'm glad to step in and honored to read Maureen's work. Let's see. But I wanted to show everybody. I can only see myself in a little teeny square, but okay. Can you see? This is the book that we did together after our trip that we took, which would have been in 2018, no, 2019, before COVID occurred. And we drove all over. We were both in our 70s, and we drove all the way down south across the southern border up into New Mexico and Arizona and over into San Diego, up to San Francisco, etc. We did lots of readings. Jamey was one of we in this book is our blog that we kept, and when we stopped at some place, we honored all the poets that we met and discuss them and talk about the reading and etc. And so it's a great book. And we stayed with Jamey in Florida. So anyhow, I wanted to tell you about it's at City Point Press. Anyhow, in 2006, Maureen wrote Erosion's Pull. And at that time, I did an interview of her, which was in Talisman, all about the poems in this book. And it's up on my website, if you barbarahenning.com. And so I'm going to read one poem from this. Oh, gosh, did I lose a poem? It's one of my favorites from her. It's called Whenever I Snow. I think of Black Beauty when he was pulling a cab, standing street side under a lamppost, his dark harness gathering flakes, a jet horse becoming white powder, a dark horse disappearing. you know, Maureen grew up around horses. Can't remember the whole story, but and then I'm going to read some poems from, I'm reading mostly her shorter poems, as she does write a lot of long ones, but I'm going to read 3 poems from the book she wrote, Let the Heart Hold Down the Breakage, Hanging Loose, published just a few years ago. And this book is all about taking care of her mother. Let the Heart Hold Down the Breakage, or the Caregiver's Log. And her mother was quite old when she did that. So, and when we were on a road, she was reading a lot of these poems. So she could put on her left ear hearing aid, but not her right, and sometimes she could not put on her left either. That's a title. Back then, she would swing me up behind the saddle of the smoky Mustang, go full gallop up the cow pasture till the very end fencing. My skinny arms wound around her waist for dear life, bounced and flung, my sides pinching and aching, then turn and gallop back through the cows, leap up the ditch, trotting, the gravel driveway, back into the yard. She has this photograph of her mother with her horse. I become her human pack mule, preparation for a walk around the lake, the park, the block. Her tan safari jacket, Kleenex in the pockets, sunscreen applied, Rio 216, Olympics visor cap, or brimmed lavender hat, warm gloves, ice and water bottle, light long sleeve shirt, sunglasses, cough drops, purse, gum, toothpick, or cane. Even when without lodgings. Dark racetrack quiet, everyone absorbed, thoroughbreds nodding. We drive back to the barns, find a vacant stall, a kindly lone tack room, or empty horse van to sleep in, gathering towels and toothbrushes, and from a spigot at the end of the shed row, she'd monitor our ablutions, our scrupulous brushing of teeth. There's another one. Mom, she wears my flip-flops in mid-afternoon sun. I shade her ankles and feet with my shadow. The pines nap too, still and drowsy in their altitude as a baby breathes, soft and scarcely. It hurts my neck, but I can't stop staring up at them. Their glassy needle tops bristle, rolling, heaving, sea above. And I'm going to read 4 from her most recent book. Everything Turns on a Delicate Measure. I had to prepare this reading last night very late, and I had 4 appointments this afternoon. So I wish I could have read all the books and really thought like you do about your own poetry reading, you know. So I couldn't do that given the circumstances. Hold on. This one. Pentecost. I first saw the word facsimile on the nameplate of a racehorse's halter, a deep chestnut gelding, I a kid standing in the shed row, mid-afternoon sun setting, his coat a red-orange fire, he leaning from his stall door. Okay. Everyone has lost a memory. She pokes me as the altar boy hoists a long poled crucifix. Look, Jesus has a broken arm. The snapped forearm swings rhythmically on its pinning. Marilyn Monroe never takes her gloves off. Through the whole performance, the other singer has to do all the finger snapping. Time to get out the thread. The swishing of a detail veers. Perhaps our brains do all the guesswork, winking. We see the nose and upper mouthpiece of the iron war mask, fastened with tiny latches, shaped as doves. And now, heat, thick and soundless, baffles the leaves, but the tree shades itself. For Bill Berkson, 1939 to 2016. Last one I'm going to read is the third horse was a shadow of the first horse on the second horse, or accidentally calling you back just to say good night again. I liked her shirt, strips of a dusky field, caught in dazzling bands of the setting sun's rays, released in shoots of light, where dense clumps of gray, glowing gold foil clouds parted, which settled over her arms, gesso and water, color, paint on sugar pine, nice hair, all the furniture of the pagan soul tucked in her cathedral of grace. And, that poem really that poem reminds me of something because Maureen was a painter before she became a poet. And I always think of her poems as sort of like paintings on page, like abstract paintings in a way, but not so abstract. So that's the last one. Now I'm going to read the
Wait,
one.
Barbara, before you do, let me just say introduce you, okay? That was
Okay.
so great. And that first poem about the horse, that reminded me, and Jamie's poem, which is the first poem of the set, were like from, I saw them through Joel Daly's postcard series. They were both so wonderful.
Hmm.
All right. So, Barbara, thank you again for coming in. Barbara Henning is the author of 4 novels and 9 collections of poetry. Her most recent book, Girlfriend, is a collection of prose poems about her girl and women friends from childhood through older age. The book was published by Hanging Loose Press in 2025, and in 2023, the Library of Michigan awarded Barbara a notable book award for Fern, a Detroit story, a novelized biography of her mother and the city of Detroit from Spuyten Duyvil. And you're going to read from Girlfriend's a Girlfriend, right?
Right. I'm going to read Maureen. And before I do that, I'll just say I'm busy writing another book called Boys and Men. So of all my men and men friends and boyfriends and boys who are friends. And so Maureen, in '88, Lewis asked you to write a blurb for my first book, Smoking in the Twilight Bar. Over the years, we hung out at poetry readings in New York, Tucson, and in Boulder. While we were teaching for Naropa, we talked on the phone for hours. The year before the pandemic, in our 70s, both with grown children and grandchildren, we circled the country on a reading tour. I taught you yoga, and even though I try to be optimistic, I had to keep up with you, especially in Albuquerque when my lungs didn't like the altitude, the cold air, and the dirty hostel where we were staying. I couldn't breathe, and you helped me carry things upstairs. You could stay up all night talking about poetry. Once we sat in the Walmart parking lot making tempeh tuna sandwiches on a cutting board and we laughed at ourselves. Problems? Sure, someone was always in a hurry. Someone was irritable, someone was snoring, someone forgot to take a photo, someone said something to hurt the other, someone needed to be alone, someone was cold and there weren't enough blankets, someone was worried about what was going on at home. But look at that mountain, that cloud formation, the wind turbines, those poor cows corralled like that. Click, click, clink, clunk. Someone's shoulder caught in a cramp. Someone wants to eat real food. Someone wants to kill the bully, but someone is a pacifist. Someone needs to write alone. Someone needs to be alone. Now I call you up if I can't think of the right word. I say that all my relatives died around my age, and you advise that's not the way to think about it, Barb. I had trouble sleeping, but you could fall asleep anywhere. 2 months in a car and 15 poetry readings later. At the end of the trip, I was camping out in the room in your basement. When I went upstairs to ask you a question, you were in a U shape on the sofa, sound asleep. Another time, you were leaning on your mother as she gazed out the window, sound asleep. What a gift to be able to sleep like that. So that was you.
Yay.
Thank you for asking me to
Thank you,
read
Barbara.
poems. Thank you.
And now I think we're gonna go to Cassandra.
Actually, first we're gonna hear from
Oh,
John.
John.
John is our technical director, and a mighty fine technical director he is. But he's also published hundreds of poems and stories in many journals, such as the I-70 Review, New Verse News, Patterson, and Unlikely Stories. He is regional editor of the San Diego Annual and host of the Gelato East Fiction Open Mic, as well as the NAV Arts Poetry Reading. John's latest short story collection is St. John the Blasphemer. He lives in Manchester, New Hampshire, and longs for gene editing to bring giant wombats back from extinction. John.
Thank you. This is called I Consume Multitudes. Are baby boomers problematic? Very well then, I delight in your scorn. I shun choir, pep rallies, and letter jackets. I am a night owl, a free thinker. I consume multitudes. My bones, my every atom of flesh formed from Swanson TV dinners, Salisbury steak, chicken parmesan, turkey with sweet potatoes, stuffing, gravy, enchilada with rice and beans, baked at 350 degrees for 30 minutes and served in aluminum trays. Unless I crave lasagna, which takes an hour. Chex Mix cheese curls, Reese's peanut butter cups, fluorescent yellow Mountain Dew. I hear celebrities talking when Ed McMahon bellows, here's Johnny, when Karnak the Magnificent wears a turban big as a truck tire, when Art Fern warns do not take the Slauson cut off, when stage lights gleam from Don Rickles' dome, when George Carlin gives tonight's forecast dark, when Peter Ustinov strokes his beard, when Bob Newhart's staffs dial an atheist, when Buddy Hackett, Alan King, Dick Cavett, Sherry Lewis, George Siegel, and Florence Henderson charm and amaze between commercials. Who is Corbett Monica anyway? Hurrah for science fiction, long live the monster movie, pivot the rabbit ears, tune the TV to UHF, this is the nuclear physicist, this is the exobiologist, these sailors pilot a nuclear sub while the sky burns, this paleontologist finds dinosaurs in the Amazon, these geologists discover civilizations under the earth, this crime fighter wears a jetpack, these robot assassins explode, this Englishman invented anti-gravity paint, these aliens control astronauts' minds, this family survives a nuclear war, this energy-hungry robot tears down power lines, this alien offers Earth salvation, will a test pattern and national anthem finally send me to bed? Sleep! Who needs sleep when Mr. big breaks James Bond's finger and a shark devours Felix Leiter's arm in the yellowed pages of a 50-cent paperjack, when lunar prison colonies revolt, when an earthling raised by Martians makes Jubal Harshaw his water brother, when Lazarus Long inhabits a woman's body, when nuclear war catapults survivors into a dystopian future. As for you, sleep, you belong in the daytime. While I slumber, I leave parodies of childhood pop culture, as laughter and courage will be good health to you. But I will not sleep now, for Captain America, Incredible Hulk, and Mighty Thor cartoons begin at dawn.
Woo! Well, there's a way to start open mic for 2026. We've got a boomer anthem. I'm pretty excited by that. Plus, I love Mountain Dew, and it's not that easy to get here. So I was very excited about the fluorescent Mountain Dew making a cameo. Um, we love our John. There's no one quite like him. We love him opening open, and that was a particularly special one. But now we need to move on to the chairman. DeWitt always has something that kind of, brings the tone up somehow in these incredible sessions. So, DeWitt, you've got something special today.
Well, as you may or may not know, this is the 2026 is the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And if there are such things as grant makers, they're offering grants for various artists to celebrate that this summer. So this poem is called Independence. Life-sized ceramic cows, or are they bulls, have sprung up in town spaces coast to coast. In Sturbridge, Mass., after a recent installation parade, 25 replicas stand on display, identical in form, except for some having horned heads down, others up. Each sculpture is original in its painted designs and colors and created by a different Massachusetts artist. Some are painted white with varicolored flowers, some striped like zebras or the rainbows for gay pride. Some are brown, some red, some reference local scenes. One is mint green with chocolate spots and a cherry between horns. Each expresses wit and vision. Cow parades began as a Swiss tradition, as summering herds were driven from mountain meadows back to valley villages and farms. Bedecked in garlands with bells, cows wound through streets where people cheered their gifts of milk, ice cream, cheese, and meat. My favorite in Sturbridge's herd is metallic gold, with cursive black writing overlaid like a tattoo. Its words contiguous over haunches, sides, and back. I trace and recognize the flowing sentences from spine, rib, muscles into legs. We hold these truths to be self-evident. The Declaration's preamble here serves like a net over wealth and power. Yet, in the lumbar hollow of hips, the artist has left one large question mark. I think of Old Testament's golden calf, of sacred cows, bull markets, fights with spirit over flesh, of cowboy roundups and drives to stockyards, of McDonald's, billions of burgers, of Elsie the cow, Borden's trademark, of closest milk to human kindness. And actually, I think you can see this.
Love it. Oh, it was a fantastic one. I love the replicants as well because it's so Blade Runner-esque, that moment. But the mint green cow with the chocolate spots and the cherry
knew it.
in the bottom. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Vicky. Vicky's one of our regulars. She's studied with amazing people all over the world, I hear on the chat today. And she can have anything from a synesthetic poem to a sea shanty to a sonnet. We never know. Vicky, what do you got?
Hi there. I've got a prose poem today. And it's called Escape Artist. Floating remotely in my private bubble, I skim over the mountain ranges, the forests and rivers. I do have a destination. Buff, earthy stones standing grimly, though still flecked with hopeful fragments of gold. An artifact, this giant slab of solidity, and I feel the urge for some emotional connect with it. I could tap into the universal archive and absorb its data, but for some reason I don't want to. For once, what I want is ignorance, the pleasure of imagining, guessing. Why not simply play with its unfathomable reticence? In this age of the eschatological, I am so free. I feel so constrained. Thank you.
Ooh, what an ending. And it started with the private bubble. I loved the private bubble. It was kind of like Glinda the Good Witch kind of bubble, sort of floating over the land. Loved it. Vicky, we always love your work. Next, we have Kurt Lovelace, who will have something surprising, no doubt, for us.
Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I'm not hearing myself. Hold on a second here. There we go. Solved. Thank you. Let me read something here. This is called offing, like you off yourself. So I guess the verb form of offing. Pain leached into his painting, a pre-Raphaelite. John huddled, tethered in his tent for days, in Surrey, along the banks of the Hogsmill River. He'd limp, half-frozen, to a house up the way, where he habited nights holding himself quiet. Days, his brushstrokes, evoke the flicker of every droplet, and push in every sprig of petal budding, and Ophelia sinking into her decision. I capture with one click of my phone. The billionth shot of the pond's plaintive being whiskered onto the clouds that slurp oceans to cool hot silver-white sponges, bleaching coral reefs for $5 a month, that shelve our faux memories, the simulacrums of the things that sparked them, but not the feeling I lived standing on the soggy bank, breathing each second, a wavering forgetfulness that makes us fully human. I earn each misery as I go. I bring it home. It lives like skin inside my skin. I cannot turn the world to good. I watch it burn. Fungi blow the grass, sing to trees 100 miles away of coming thirst. I have no illusions that I understand. The wholeness of worms toil blindly, waiting to meet the meat of me.
Wow, that was good for us. I think I can hear myself when your microphone got me doubled. Love a pre-Raphaelite offing, and love Ophelia, and love you standing on the soggy bank, and the skin inside my skin. All amazing images. Absolutely loved it. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And we're going to end with the dazzling duo of Cindy and Bob. We haven't had any badass poets on here this year so far. This is our first show, Sin. What do you got?
I printed out about 8 poems, so you can just play Jeopardy music while I which to read. I'm going to read some short ones. I don't know. This came dribbling out of me last night. Blurb as a verb is like love as a dove. And I wrote that because I don't like using blurb as a verb. You know, he blurbed my book, but I always use it. Anyway, another one. Never believe a doubting Thomas who only gives you a lick and a promise. And I know you like that one. And I'm going to end it with my really silly poem. I don't dream often, but when I do, it's a doozy. I dreamt I was falling from a tattered bar stool during last call at the White Horse Tavern, and Dylan Thomas caught me before I went not so gently into that, etc., etc.
Love it. Love a bit of White Horse Tavern. Sin, that's an awesome one. Absolutely adored it. Even I have been to the White Horse Tavern. So it's exciting hearing you fall, you quite literally fall for Dylan Thomas, but he captures you. I love it.
Yeah, I was there a lot.
Back in, Sin has this rich past that she occasionally alludes to, but she was sort of a rock star. So we might get more of that as the year progresses, Sin. And we can't end Lip Balm any other way than with Bob. So we're glad that Bob made it because he was having a little sleep and he fortunately woke up in time to bless us with his it could be information, but then when I say that, it's something else. So I'm never quite sure. Bob, what have you got? We love hearing from you. We're going to carry it around with us until the next Lip Balm. No pressure.
An extremely short poem.
Oh, extremely short is coming from you. You're like the king of the short poems. So extremely short. I'm wondering how many, like, if it's got more than a syllable, but we'll see. We've got bated breath here. All right.
The sky moving too rapidly for the birds to enter.
Ooh, it's sort of biblical. It's big. I like it. It's small and it's big. That's the best way to end Lip Balm. Mark and Jeff, over to you.
Thank you.
Marvelous show. Mark, you gonna end for us there or something?
You're muted.
Sorry about that. I always think that I'm not muted. I wanted to thank Jamey, Janet, Dennis, and Barbara for joining us tonight, and thank you, Jeff, for corralling these folks together. And before we leave, but we will return fairly shortly, and we'll let you know when that is. We haven't quite decided yet. Here is something very short. It's called Of Two Mammalian Minds. Is the psyche simply inside the brain to seek its outer astral plane? Or is that psyche also outside the skull, reflecting inward toward the light again? I'll leave it up to you to decide that one. And we'll see you next time. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend and lots of love and poetry. And let's hope things turn around, as far as the big picture is concerned. Lots of love anyway.
Yeah, thanks everybody for coming out. It's good to see you guys. Bob and Sheila, all these people from all over the world coming out. Super reading.
Fabulous show. Love you all. Mwah. Especially my regulars.